As we discuss, a lot of factors are responsible for the shaping of the term gender. Gender is shaped by a whole range of factors. The first being biological, because as I said earlier, it is from there that the term gender takes shape. The moment you are born, it is the biological part which divides a male from a female, a boy from a girl, right? The social factors are also responsible for shaping gender. It is the kind of divisiveness, it's a kind of inequality, it's a kind of a stereotyped upbringing which shapes gender. You will find that in a society, man and woman does not enjoy equal rights. Women are more prone to take up the domestic affairs, and therefore they have to give up their right for employment, right to education, whatever rights that we talk about as a citizen. It is denied to a woman because of the social or societal expectations from a woman. So it's here that gender is shaped. Now this is a very major factor in shaping up gender. The other aspect is cultural. So when we look at different cultures, will have different kinds of ways of creating that differences, which in fact brings about gender, and that becomes a part of gender studies. Gender and an understanding of what gender means and the implications are very important. Unless and until we understand the term gender, we really do not understand what kind of implications they have on us. On us, by the term us, what I mean is the society at large, and particularly the one who is subdued, the one who is suppressed. So it's a lot of theory and practice. There are a lot of case studies which becomes a part of gender studies. The case studies play a major role in understanding gender studies. Why is it that we give so much of importance to gender studies? Is it really important? If yes, why? What is the aim or the goal of this branch of studies? The mission to identify. Okay. First of all, the importance of gender studies is because it has a clear-cut mission of identifying the social inequalities, not only at the local level but at the global level. So that's the first most important mission of gender studies, to identify all those areas where there is social inequality. So it could be that's why I use the word locally as well as globally. It's not just in your homes, but in a society. It's at a micro and a macro level, and therefore at all different levels you will find these kind of social inequalities and discrepancies which have to be ruled out. It has to be first of all identified, have to be seen where such social inequalities exist. So to identify this kind of social inequality at a local, global level becomes a part of gender studies. It's a branch of gender studies, and therefore it's very important, because unless and until you identify what the problems are, you are not able to analyze them. And if you don't analyze them, the next step of correcting these social inequalities does not happen. So the most important part of gender studies, the most important function of this particular branch is to identify the inequalities, to analyze these social inequalities both at local and global level, and the third thing is to correct them. Wherever these discrepancies are found, they need to be corrected so that the social inequality can be removed from the society, and then we can talk of a world citizenship where everybody is equal. It explores power as it relates to other forms of identity such as sexuality, race, religion, class, and nationality. All these aspects are very, very important when it comes to gender studies, because as you see that these are the aspects that are being explored. The power, if we look at sexuality, a man enjoys more power than a woman. So there is a kind of identity when you are born a man and when you are born a woman. So it is already formed, and this is the area where you need to identify where the problem is. So there is social inequality in sexuality. You will find that they are differently treated, they are differently given powers. Man enjoys more power and positions in various spheres of life. This has to be balanced, and that becomes a part of gender studies. Race. When we talk about race, again, it's a form of identity. You belong to a particular race, you belong to a particular religion, or you belong to a particular class, upper class, lower class, you belong to a particular nationality. All these play a major role when it comes to, so the power, gender studies explores the power as it relates to other forms of identity. So not only that you are born a man or a woman, but at the same time the race, the class, the religion, the nationality of the individual also becomes a part of the study. A very important aspect, the key characteristics of gender studies. There are three things which we need to, these are all broad terms, but they are I'm trying to simplify them so that this is a beginning this is a beginning where you can start going deep or exploring more into this area called gender studies. The three major characteristics of gender studies include interdisciplinarity, nonconformity, and reflectivity. Interdisciplinarity, nonconformity, and reflectivity. These are the three key characteristics of gender studies. So if we can look at each one of them, we will try and understand how these characteristics of gender studies can further be explored to bring about that balance. GS here stands for gender studies. It's a broad interdisciplinary project. As I said earlier at the beginning of the session, the lecture, that gender studies is a very, very broad project. It is interdisciplinary, and therefore it focuses on gendered conditions and articulations of social power. Right? So these are two things which you need to focus on. It is interdisciplinary, therefore it focuses on gendered conditions. So whether you are born a man or a woman, that plays a major role here. And the second part is the articulations of social power. Whatever you're born as, whether as what kind of social position you are in. If you are in a very good if you enjoy social power, you are able to articulate So the scope for articulations remain if you enjoy social power. So these things are being explored under gender studies because it is interdisciplinary. Because it's interdisciplinary, as I said earlier, it can be this gender studies can be connected with sociology for that matter, with history for that matter, with politics. You talk about any other discipline, gender studies can be connected and has to be explored in each of these fields to bring about a social change. We come to the next key characteristics of gender studies, which is nonconformity. Nonconformity is very, very important because when we do not conform to the rules and regulations laid down by the society, that means you are not in line with the stereotypes as designed by the society, and you are in a mood to protest. So it is this non-conformity because you do not agree to these fixed rules and regulations. You tend to struggle for justice, right? And it is these struggles, the various struggles for justice. It could be the feminist movement, which had the struggle for for various rights, the right to vote, the right for education, the right for employment, the right to be financially independent. All these are a part of the struggle because a society had decided that a woman has to play certain roles, and therefore she is deprived of the other roles that she would have wished to perform. So we look at this. It takes courage to question. So whenever you are questioning, it is not an easy task. You need a lot of courage. Already the rules are laid down by the society to which you are not willing to conform to, or you are rather in a mood to reject those fixed rules, societal norms, and that's where the questioning takes place. Like women were denied education, let us start from the suffrage movement, that they were denied the right to vote. They were not considered equal to their male counterpart. And so the movement started from there. To get a right to vote, even to question that, you needed courage. So the group of activists who started this movement gathered a lot of courage in order to question and to reject the existing norms, societal norms, which is being taken for granted in dominant domains. Most of these norms are taken for granted, and in those domains where male plays a major dominating role. Now, when the third key characteristics, the early one, as we saw, that gender studies is interdisciplinary. The second one is that it is non-conformity. That's a key characteristics of gender studies. And then the third one is reflectivity. Now, gender studies would not have existed without this particular characteristic. Gender studies emerges from the tradition of critiquing social injustice. If we do not reflect upon the norms, the values, the principles, and practices that are underpinning social structures of gender, how would a change take place? So, gender studies emerges from the tradition of critiquing, of questioning, of thinking, of debating, of holding, discourses on these topics, or particularly of social injustice based on the gender, right? Without reflection on the norms, values, principles, and practices underpinning social structures of gender differentiation and replication. So, if you reflect upon these things, you are able to, it helps you to understand the issues of justice. If you don't reflect, if you don't think, if you don't hold discourses, debates, discussions, these issues will go unresolved. So it cannot be allowed to go unresolved. Therefore, it's very, very essential. It's the primary requirement is to reflect upon these aspects and to bring about some kind of solutions to the existing problems. And all these issues, the problems, the solutions that come about all become a part of gender studies. So the issues of justice, injustice, and many cultural ways in which gender operates. You will find that how gendering of ethics, religion, discourse, and tradition takes place, and the contributions to engendered social life. You find that so the society has clear-cut norms, and if we do not hold discourses, if we do not reflect upon these issues, no solutions are bound to take place, and no change is going to come about. So it's very, very essential that we focus on these three characteristics. As I said, number one, interdisciplinarity. I'm repeating this because these are the major three characteristics of broad characteristics, as I would say. These are three main characteristics, key characteristics of gender studies: interdisciplinarity and nonconformity and reflectivity. Gender studies also includes concerns and debates, repositionings. As I said, unless and until you reflect, unless and until you